If your goal is to build muscle, will running kill your gains? That was something I was absolutely terrified about for my entire fitness journey, so I just didn't do cardio for about 3 years. So now 4 years into my fitness journey, having gained weight and built muscle, I wanted to challenge myself in a bit of a different way and see if the rumors are true that running does actually kill your gains and I would lose progress, or maybe find an elite training style that all of us have been missing out on this whole time. So for the next 30 days, I'm going to be combining running and lifting in the form of hybrid training. I'm going to walk you through my workouts, nutrition and recovery around lifting and running to hopefully hold on to all of the progress I've made so far and maybe even build muscle. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but we'll have to find out. It is week 1, day 1, and I'm nervous but so excited because whenever you start a new training plan, you're hyped, like your motivation is the highest it's been in ages. That is kind of what I'm experiencing right now. Yeah, I am nervous for all of the new movements that I'm going to have to learn because I've not tried most of them. Some of them, like as a coach, I know how to do a lot of them, but it's going to be kind of that mental shift from knowing the head knowledge to actually doing, like being able to do the form properly yourself. So it's going to be a bit of a learning curve, but I'm excited to just be able to try new things and switch things up. So my workout split is going to be lower body, upper body, lower body rest, then a full body workout, then a run. I'll be increasing the volume over time as well, but for this week, it's just going to be a little bit more of learning the new movements, and then we can build from there. I also just want to clarify that hybrid training and Hyrox training are two different things, but because I would potentially want to do a Hyrox in the somewhat near future, it's pretty likely, I'm going to be including a lot of Hyrox movements in my hybrid training. I'm going to be training some of those movements in each of my strength workouts. So for week 1, let me walk you through them. First up, sled push. I've actually tried sled push once before a couple years ago, so I wasn't 100% new to this, but I was kind of confused about how heavy I would actually be able to lift. So it was a bit of trial and error figuring that out. But with sled push, there's a couple different forms you can use, and the first one gives you more power. The second one I tried, but I couldn't actually get the sled moving, so reverted back. But the second one is used to help open up your airways a bit more. So ideally, I want to be able to get that down by the end of the 30 days. Then we have walking lunges. I'm actually a pretty big fan of walking lunges. I have done them a few times in my workouts just as a finisher, and I did 100 meters of these, so we're training muscular endurance here. The next session included one of the movements I was most scared for, which was row erg. I actually got injured pretty bad trying row erg at the very start of my fitness journey, so ever since then I have not really done it. As you can probably tell, because my form is terrible, I fell off the flipping machine. I did try to get into a bit of a rhythm with it, but the form just felt super unnatural, so I've got a long way to go, and it really woke me up to the reality of how challenging this challenge is actually going to be. Next up is wall balls, except we have one massive issue. The ceilings in our gym are too short to do wall balls, so I had to improvise and do dumbbell thrusters instead. There's a lot of specific technique that you need for wall balls, so I'm going to try and find a gym where I can practice that by the end of the 30 days, but for now, we'll just have to make do. I'd never done sled pull before, and it seriously confused me. I had no idea how I was supposed to attach the rope to the sled because I don't think these sleds are really built for it, but I just ended up tying a knot around the middle bit and then putting the plates on top so it stayed. I don't know if this is what you're supposed to do, but it kind of worked. And then I actually didn't know the form of how you're supposed to do sled pull in an actual Hyrox race, so I tried pulling the sled and it moved and that worked. But this is where a big mistake with the form came in, because in an actual Hyrox race, you're not supposed to just grab it and walk back the whole way dragging the sled with you. You're supposed to stay in your little 2-meter box, and I did not know this, so I was just dragging the sled along. It was pretty heavy, so I don't think this session was wasted, but my form was way off, so we've got a long way to go. Ski erg is another exercise that I had never tried before, actually maybe once at a random event I was at, but this is such a weird exercise. I had clearly no clue what I was doing. So we used this as a technique session and gave it quite a few goes, looking up YouTube videos in between each time. This is kind of the slight improvements you can see from each time I tried, but it just felt really stiff and unnatural when I was doing it, and then I wasn't sure if my range of motion was big enough, but here's the final attempt that I kind of got to. Still also a long way to go, but if I learn anything from this first week, it's that hybrid training and the Hyrox movements in particular are very humbling, and I've got a lot to learn. It is week 2, aka day 8 of hybrid training. If I'm gonna be totally honest, I felt a little bit out of my depth last week with all of the new movements, especially the more functional Hyrox style movements, but I'm thinking that has set like a decent foundation for me to then build on this week, so I'm hopeful. Also looked up the right form for sled pull and I was doing it totally wrong, so we'll try and fix that this week, but I'm excited, and yeah, I'm just hyped for today's session. For all of my gym workouts, I always do a very similar warm-up, starting with 3 to 5 minutes of light cardio followed by dynamic stretches. And I know I always yap on about how important it is to warm up before lifting weights in the gym to help prevent injury, improve your range of motion and performance and all of that, but especially as a hybrid athlete, warm-ups are crucial because they're preparing your body to switch between or combine the high intensity strength training and endurance cardio. And getting injured just because we didn't warm up properly is the last thing we want, because it's going to take us out of the gym a lot longer than if we just spent the 3 to 5 minutes warm up in the first place. To make each of my workouts more hybrid focused, they've got to include 3 things: a strength aspect, a cardio aspect, and an endurance aspect. Now I know what you're thinking, won't doing a lot of cardio just kill your gains? And the answer is yes, but only if you're not structuring your entire plan and recovery and nutrition right. I'll get into how I'm going to structure this whole plan so that I don't lose gains, I can actually build muscle during the process and make improvements in my running and strength at the same time. But for each of my workouts in the gym, I'm including 2 more functional exercises, which are actually the same ones as are the stations that you do in Hyrox. So for this lower body session, the first functional movement I did was sled push. And oh my goodness, I seriously underestimated how heavy the sled would actually be. But what I actually found harder was getting the plates off afterwards. So a hack that I figured out is if you tip the sled over and then just slide the plates off that way, it is 100 times easier. The second functional movement of the day was 100 meters of sandbag walking lunges. I'm just using a 20 kg bag because that is what I would need if I was doing Hyrox, but there's no stopping, and I'm actually pretty good at lunges, so what I would do going forwards would be to train at a heavier weight than I would have to do if I was doing a Hyrox race, because that means on the day it won't feel quite as hard. I say quite because Hyrox is absolutely brutal, but it's going to feel a bit easier than if you didn't train at heavier weights. The walking lunges mainly focus on building muscular endurance for the quads and glutes, which is really crucial if I want to become a strong hybrid athlete. And by the end of the workout, I thought I would be feeling more tired than I was, but I was actually okay, so maybe I would get away with it. Maybe I wouldn't experience any muscle soreness. That was what I hoped. But then it was time to head home and refuel. I made this chicken and egg fried rice. It's actually in another video, so if you want to see how I made it, go check that out. But fueling well around your workouts is so important as a hybrid athlete, because you're going to be using a lot of energy in those explosive movements. So ideally you want to get carbs in there to replenish your glycogen stores as fast as possible, and also obviously some protein to help with the recovery process, which I realized would become more and more important as the week went on. I am feeling the legs after yesterday's session. I was doing some light mobility and then now I'm just lying on the floor. But anyway, it was a good session. I really enjoy the more functional Hyrox style movements that I kind of have towards the end of my sessions. And the way that I'm structuring it right now is that I'm keeping most of the regular weight training exercises towards the start of my workout, so that when I get to the end and do those functional movements like sled push, sled pull, burpees, whatever, I am under more fatigue, and that kind of mimics the environment that you're going to be in as a hybrid athlete doing something like Hyrox. It's tough, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm really enjoying that challenge. I know we're only a couple days in, but I just feel like when you're lifting weights in the gym with the goal of muscle growth, it can get a bit repetitive, like 3 sets, 10 to 12 reps, and it can be really easy to just fall into the trap of not pushing yourself and kind of getting too comfortable. So if anything, this challenge is going to be pushing me out of my comfort zone, which is something that is so important to do. But yeah, it's mainly upper body today, also row, which I don't really like rowing, because when I first started my fitness journey, I tried using the row erg because I joined the rowing club, whatever, and I hurt my lower back quite a lot. So ever since then, I've just kind of avoided rowing. I need to figure out the form on that. It's not going to be pretty, but hybrid athlete's got to do what a hybrid athlete's got to do. So let's go. Not gonna lie, I wish I could just spawn in the gym that quickly every day, but today we were doing a more upper body focused session, and because I'm a little bit more advanced in the gym now, Usually the advice you'll hear for structuring your workouts is start with your compound lifts because they're using multiple muscle groups. You're going to be more fatigued later in your workout, so you don't want to leave them to the end. But as you get more advanced, you can start using different techniques like pre-fatiguing certain muscles. So I started with lateral raises on the cable machine just because I do still have a bit of a dodgy shoulder, so I just find that the cable is a bit more, like, it feels a bit better on my shoulder, let's put it that way. So I started with cable lateral raises to sort of pre-fatigue the delts, and then we moved on to pull-ups and some seated shoulder presses, while some more work for the rear delts with the cables again. Pretty much a standard upper body session for me. And then as we got towards the end of the workout, I did include more isolation exercises like cable tricep extensions, then supersetted them with bicep curls. I really love the cable variation of bicep curls I'm doing here. I just get such a good stretch from the biceps and it gives me a really good pump, so I would recommend. But I finished off the main lifting part of my workout with some lat pull downs. I've been enjoying the neutral grip recently just because it feels more comfortable in my shoulder. And then for our functional movements, I was supposed to do wall balls, but the thing is, the ceiling in our gym is too low so that I can't actually do wall balls in our gym, which is a bit of an oversight. So as a compromise, I had to do dumbbell thrusters, but I did try to use some more power at the top, so the dumbbell is kind of leaving my hands just a little bit to try and emulate what throwing the ball would actually be like. But obviously I don't know if I could actually catch the ball, and the form's going to be a bit different when you're having to throw and catch a flying object, but the intention was there. And then I saved the best or the worst till last, which was the row erg. Now, it was okay. I was only slightly less confused about the form at the end than I was at the start, so if anyone has any tips, let me know. I think the biggest thing for me is that I am a qualified personal trainer. I know technically, like, in my head how to do it. It's just I've never put that into practice. So when you're getting the form down for yourself, it's a little bit different than knowing the head knowledge. So that's something I've got to figure out. But after the 1,000 meters were up, I was feeling pretty good, and that was day 2 complete. Today is hybrid leg day number 2. I'm pretty excited for this leg day. I think, if I remember right, I've got sled pull on the cards at the end as well, which you might think is an upper body exercise, but you've really got to get a lot of the lower body involved as well to really move the sled quickly. I guess it kind of depends on the technique you use. The only thing that's slightly concerning is that my legs are still a little bit sore from my first leg day 2 days ago. I mean, I know it's called delayed onset muscle soreness for a reason, but when you feel it the next day, you expect it to be gone the second day, and then suddenly it just hits you. If I'm being totally honest though, I've not really experienced much DOMS since I started training. Like, the first year of my fitness journey, yeah, it was a lot more evident, but since I've just been doing very similar movements for the last 3-4 years, you kind of don't get as sore the day after. But I think just now, because not all of the movements, a lot of the movements are new, just putting that new stimulus on my body is starting to catch up with me. The sun is shining, I'm looking forward to this session. I might not be able to lift as heavy as I would like, but who knows, we'll see. And she spawns in the gym again. Don't worry, tomorrow we'll be switching things up. We started off the leg day with seated hip abduction to sort of pre-fatigue the glutes a little bit. And I say we because my sister was actually here with me and I was training her a little bit, which was super exciting. I've been trying to get her into the gym for years now, at least 2 years. And I've finally had some breakthrough, you guys, so thank you for getting this shot, puppy. This workout was a little bit more quads and glutes focused, whereas the first leg day of the week was more glutes and hamstrings focused, so a little tweak there just to switch things up a bit. But the first of the 2 functional exercises in this session was sled pull. I am still not 100% sure what the best way to attach the rope is, but I just sort of tied it in a knot and then put it on the bottom of the sled, and so I could put all of the plates on top, and that sort of held it in place. It worked pretty well. It did go a little bit squint, but you know. Now, going off my performance in sled push earlier in the week, I thought that I would be pretty weak at sled pull, but I actually managed 103 kg including the sled, which is what I would need to do if I was training in the women's pro division for Hyrox. The weights that you're lifting is really the main difference in the divisions for Hyrox, so if you're interested, I'll put a little screenshot here. But as a hybrid athlete, even if I was competing in the women's open, which uses lighter weights, I would want to work up to the women's pro weights as a minimum, just so that the actual race itself feels easier. Then we finished off the session with something I've really not tried much at all before, which is ski erg. The form on this is completely new to me, and I think I was starting to get into a bit of a rhythm with it towards the end. Any tips would be helpful. Also, the way I speeded this up, I did it so fast that it just looked like I was staying in the same position, so here is a little bit of a slower sped up version. Just rewatching this, I think I might need to go higher with each stroke that I do. I'm not sure. I'll keep practicing this, but I know I've been yapping a lot about Hyrox in this video and not really explained exactly what it is. So for anyone who doesn't know, Hyrox is a global indoor fitness racing competition that combines running with functional workout stations, like I've been doing at the end of my workouts. It's made up of an 8k run, which is split into 1k intervals, and then you've got your 8 different functional workout sections between those runs. So basically the hybrid athlete's dream. And I may or may not have some news for you at the end of this video that kind of relates to Hyrox. Today was really my heaviest session of the week, so I was starting to feel it at this point, but thankfully it is now day 4, and day 4 is a rest day. So what I like to do on my rest days is kind of take it as an active rest day. When I say active, I'm not going out and running 5k, 10k, anything like that. I just like to get my steps in, so around 10,000 steps per day is what I aim for. And I also make it a priority to get some mobility work in there as well. I feel like people either fall into 2 categories when it comes to mobility. Either they're really on it and they do it every day and it's just part of their routine now, or they don't really know what to do and they just don't do it at all. I very much used to fall into the second category, but then I made it priority and I started filming them as well. So now I've got a whole playlist that if you don't know what you're doing or you just want to follow along with someone, then you can go and do one of the routines from there. Not gonna lie, this is exactly what I do. I follow my own videos to do my mobility. It keeps me accountable, right? Also, let me know if you try any of the routines and which one's your favorite, because mobility work is so important. You don't just have to save it for your rest days either. I like to do 5 to 10 minutes every morning as part of my morning routine, and it really helps set me up well for the day and just feel loose and ready to go. I was feeling so refreshed off the back of that rest day, which is just as well because it's day 5 and we're training full body. One question I often get asked about rest days is, should you be eating the same number of calories on rest days as you do training days? And the answer is, in general, yes. Because if you're not fueling your body on the days where you don't hit the gym, then you're not going to be able to recover as well. You won't be able to push as hard when you go back to the gym. And you could potentially be limiting the amount of progress you can make. Yes, there are some situations where training day and rest day calories are going to be different. But when I'm coaching clients, that really comes down to the individual, their goals, the calorie intake that they need. So it's really more of a question that's specific to each individual. I did most of today's session on the cable machine, and the gym was pretty quiet, which was really nice, but energy was kind of lacking, so I was taking things a little bit slower than I usually would. I'm not 100% sure why I was so low energy today. I think it's probably just because I've had quite a busy week mentally with work outside the gym, but what I always tell my clients is, on those days where you don't have 100% energy, that is completely okay. You don't have to skip the gym just because you know you're not going to be able to give it your 100%. Give it what you've got that day, because your best that day is going to compound over time. Like, even if that is 60% one day, 40% the next day, 98% the next day, even a small step forwards is still a step in the right direction, and all of that is going to add up to get you results that are sustainable on your fitness journey. Today's functional movements were a superset, and a very brutal superset at that. Started off with 12 burpee broad jumps straight into 40 meters of farmer's carry. Yeah, I think burpees are like Marmite. You either love them or you hate them. I thought I liked burpees, but the more that you do them, I think the less that I enjoy them. And then my sister, who was also at the gym today, she just left when I said we were doing burpees. But as hybrid athletes, we want to have those exercises where the intensity is pretty high. So having the superset of burpee broad jumps and farmer's carry kept the heart rate high, and my forearms were struggling. I also ended up with a massive bruise on my quad from the kettlebell just like bumping against it. I don't know if anyone else experiences that, or if I've just got one quad that is slightly the wrong shape, because the other one's fine. Maybe it just sticks out more. I don't know, but by the end of this workout, I was absolutely done. But also the satisfaction that you feel after having completed something like a whole set of burpee broad jumps, it just hits different, you know? I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but it's always good to end off your workouts with some static stretches just to kickstart the recovery process. Then it was time to head home, fuel up, and get some good night's sleep before tomorrow's session. You know what? I think the hardest part about that session is just the expectation of having to do burpees and farmer's carries at the end. And since it's a superset, you don't want to be resting for like a long time in between. So you do burpees, farmer's carry, rest about 30 seconds and go again. Because in the race, You don't really get that rest. Like if you're doing doubles, then yeah, you can get a bit more. But if you're doing it just as a single, you are go, go, go. One more session for this week, and that is the run. So I'll see you there tomorrow. This is the fit. Today, I really don't want to go outside because it's so grey, it's so wet, it's so rainy. But we're gonna go for an easy 5k run. Very easy. Last week I actually hit a PR for my 5k, which was 20 minutes and 50 seconds, I think. So we're not going for any PRs today. I'm gonna aim for something closer to like 30 minutes probably. The reason being is that when you run, you want to be taking easy runs really easy. So I'm talking a conversational pace where you can actually have the full conversation. You're not just trying to gasp out breaths here and there to make a sentence. That's going to help you build your aerobic base, which is going to allow you to run for further, for longer, easier in the long term. To be honest, when the weather's the way it is now, I really just want to sprint the whole thing and get it over and done with. But we're getting it done. First of all though, I never ever work out fasted because we want to be fueled so we can perform our best. And a lot of women can run into like hormonal issues if they're doing a lot of intense exercise and they never eat before it. So just to be safe, I'm gonna have some yogurt and probably some fruit before I go for a run as well. Nothing too heavy, but we're making sure we're getting the carbs and protein in there. I did manage to order running trainers, but they've not arrived yet, so we're still running in these. Hopefully they'll be fine, and hopefully they don't get too wet because I'm gonna have to wear them to church in a bit. I really didn't realise how wet it was going to be on this run. I tried to keep my hood up, but it just kept falling down, and then I had my hair up as well, and then it just kept coming out, so I rolled with it, ran in the rain, and I actually, like, the longer the run went on, the more I started to enjoy it, and I got to see some beautiful views. I'm only doing one longer run since this is a very beginner hybrid training plan, but as I progress with hybrid training, I definitely have multiple runs per week, maybe even some double training days too. So let's just take a second to enjoy this little running montage. And yeah, I finally understand the feeling of a runner's high. It hits different. Obviously, a massive part of recovery is nutrition. So what should you actually eat before and after your runs? Pre and post workout nutrition is a little bit different for runs than it is for the gym, because with the gym, there's a lot of focus around protein, but before your runs, we want to focus on carbs for that energy. So things like a bagel, banana, honey. You can add a little bit of salt in there for some electrolytes too. We want to keep it pretty low fat and low fiber, and lower on the protein as well, so your body can digest it faster. However, timing does matter quite a lot. So if you're having a bigger meal, aim to have that around 3 to 4 hours before running, or if you're having a smaller meal, then around 90 minutes is great. If you're like me and you're usually running in the morning and you just need something to grab and go, this is where we want to go for fast digesting carbs and quick sugars, so something like a banana with honey, or even cereal bars and protein bars and things like that. And one thing to make sure you avoid eating before runs is anything that's super spicy or greasy, because your stomach will thank you. After a run is where your recovery starts, so we want to aim for a 3-to-1 ratio of carbs to protein to help refuel and repair your muscle. So you could go for something simple like a smoothie, or chocolate milk is one of the best things to have after a run. You could get that in as soon as you're back from your run, and then a bit later on follow it up with some carbs, protein, fats and fiber. So things like granola with yogurt, some peanut butter and fruit, or as a super quick snack as soon as I get in, I've been loving dates and peanut butter. Little sprinkle of salt on there. It is so good. Also, please make sure that you are hydrating properly, because that's super important, and ultimately proper fuel is going to mean you have better runs, better recovery and better results long term. We are back. That run was actually really good. Like, I know it was windy and raining and wet the whole time. Like, I had to dry my headphones off as soon as I got in the door. But I really enjoyed it, and I was taking it so easy. Like, I wasn't looking at the time through the whole run, and I've got back and it said 23 minutes for just over 5k. So I don't know if that's good. Definitely time to shower off now though. We are officially halfway. It is week 3 of hybrid training, and at the end of this week I'm gonna go for a sub 20-minute 5k. I say go. I'm gonna attempt a sub 20-minute 5k. I've not really shared so much about the running side of things in this video, but I'm making a full video on the process of getting a sub 20-minute 5k as a beginner runner. So if that video is out, that means I hit it. So definitely watch that after this one. But I'm excited for this week. I don't think I'm going to film as much just because I really the motivation to film is not here this week, but I'll get some clips, and I'm excited to just keep progressing in the weights for the functional movements specifically, because I've been seeing some good progress with those so far. So if we can just up the weights and improve the form a bit more this week, I'm happy with that. But then going into next week is going to be my first double session and my first week where I've had 2 runs instead of 1 run. That's kind of how I'm progressively overloading with the runs, just gradually increasing the volume over time. And I'm feeling more like a runner with my GYMSHARK running jumper as well. So hopefully that will help me run faster. I'm not going to run in this though. But as always, we are starting off this week strong with leg day. So let's go train legs. One thing I wish someone told me sooner about the gym is that it is okay to change your goals. It's okay to change the way that you train. Like, you don't have to do 3 sets of 10 reps for the rest of your life. You can change it up, train for strength. You can try something completely different like hybrid training. You get into running. Just reflecting on starting Hyrox style training or adding a little bit more of that in recently in the last few weeks. It's just been so good. And I would suggest, if you are getting bored of your training or you're not really enjoying it as much as you used to, try something new. There's no one perfect plan that works for everyone on their fitness journey because we are all so different. So if you've been thinking about trying something different, then I challenge you to do that this week. I mean, what have you got to lose? What have you got to lose? It kind of got cut off there.
I was going to try for a sub 20-minute 5k tomorrow, but the weather is not looking good. And it's just so sad because I was so excited to go and do it, but if it's going to be windy and rainy, then chances are I'm really not going to perform well. So we'll see. We might have to postpone it till next week, which will be sad. But I'd rather do it in good weather and actually get the PR than struggle and not quite get it, you know? We'll see.
Today's the day. I'm going to try for the 5k PR. Currently, the prayers are being answered and it does not look as windy as I thought it was going to be. However, the trees are still kind of moving a bit, so I probably won't know for sure until I'm out there. But today's actually Easter Sunday, and I've been thinking a lot this week about Jesus carrying the cross and how much he had to suffer even before that, just because he loved us. I decided to do a challenge in the gym where I did 600 meters of walking lunges in honor of Jesus carrying the cross, and by the 600 meter, I was struggling. There was sweat dripping off my elbows. I just wanted to give up. And thinking about how Jesus carried so much more than that for us. He carried the weight of our sin to death on a cross. It's just so crazy that he chose to take our place. And now we've got life forever with him because of what he did for us. So that's the motivation that's going to be powering me through this run today. I'm going for a bit of a more dynamic hairstyle than I did last time because when I use my flower clips, I love them so much, but sometimes my hair can just kind of fall out a bit just with all the movement and running. But doing braids like this has not failed me yet. I'm going to do the other side and fuel up because we've got to fuel up, we've got to warm up. We got this. And I get to try my new shoes. Wait. Here they are. They are the Addy Zero Boston 12s. And I got them off Vinted. So they are actually new, but they're like a third of the price, which is always a win. The ones I tried in the shop were the Boston 13s. These are the Boston 12s, so one make earlier, I guess. They're pretty much the same. I'm so excited to try my new trainers. I've not had proper running trainers like ever, so this is a first for me, and aren't they just so cute? I did try and kind of match my fit a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. Oh yeah, code SOPHIER10 at GYMSHARK if you want to twin with me. But not the shoes, obviously. These are Adidas. Imagine if Adidas sponsored this video. That would be crazy. This video is not sponsored, by the way. Okay, let's go. This was it. It was finally time for my first sub 25k PR attempt. And I was very nervous. Like, I went to the bathroom about 4 times because I was just kind of nervous for all of it. Also, because I'd been running in my New Balance trainers this whole time, my ankles were really sore. So I was just praying for a miracle with these shoes and that everything would be fine. I was really feeling optimistic, but all the factors considered, it was very unlikely that I was going to get this PR. The ankles, trying out new shoes, the wind, the rain, and let's be real, this being my 4th run this year, it was looking pretty unlikely. But you never know if you never try, so we got out there, and I definitely didn't take the most strategic approach to this run because I wasn't looking at the time at all. I didn't really know what pace I was going at. I was just running fast and hoping that I hit sub 20. So if you are actually serious about running, I would recommend getting yourself a watch and actually tracking things properly, because that's going to give you a lot of helpful data that you're going to be able to use to progress with over time. One cool thing that I found out after this that I think might have helped is that smiling can make you run faster. Yeah, crazy, right? Studies show that smiling reduces the muscle tension and lowers your perceived exertion, so can improve your running economy by over 2% compared to if you're frowning. I think that works in my favor because I'm naturally a very smiley person, and honestly when I'm running it just reminds me of how blessed we are to be able to move our bodies, so I can't help but smile. Did it! Sub 25k unlocked. I was so confused though. I was looking at Strava and I was like, that says 20 minutes and 3 seconds. Does that mean I didn't get the sub 20? But then when I saved it, it was like 19 something. And then I was like, what? That was a hard run though. I did feel like I wanted to throw up at the end. Today is my first double session. So on the cards today, we have a full upper body session with some functional movements at the end, and then we've got a run. Obviously, when you're doing a double session day, you want to make sure that the running and the lifting don't interfere with each other too much. So that's why I'm going to be doing the lifting first, so that I've got more energy, I can put my all into that, and then we're just going to go for an easy 4K. I say we, because my friend Tori is also going. I know it'll be fine, but I'm still just a little bit nervous because this is kind of the first run that I've done where my legs are gonna be under fatigue. Not a whole bunch of fatigue because I'm training upper body, but I did do legs yesterday, so I'm still feeling it just a little bit. But the bonus of doing my whole gym session first is that that fatigue is kind of similar to what you'd experience in the later runs as you get further and further into a Hyrox race. So really it's just good preparation. However, another massive thing that we need to start taking more seriously is our nutrition around training. Because if I'm lifting for around an hour and then I'm going for a run, yeah, it's just a 4K run today, but I still want to make sure that my body's got enough energy to perform well in both. So I'm going to have a solid pre-workout meal before, and then in between each session, because I'll probably have a little time while I'm waiting for Tori, I'm just going to bring a protein bar with me because it's convenient, it gets the job done, and there will be no underfueling here. So overall training volume will be increasing this week just because I've got 2 runs now instead of 1 run, so we'll see how recovery does. I'm a little bit concerned, but not too concerned because the runs are only 4K. I'm also quite surprised about how much I've improved in the more functional Hyrox movements already, because you know when you've been going to the gym for a while, your rate of progress starts to slow down and you don't see those increases in weight, like lifting wise, as often as you did when you're a beginner. But since starting to train those more functional movements for Hyrox, for example, I've been able to increase the weight on sled push over 20 kg as a minimum each week, and that's quite a lot of weight. So progress is progressing nicely, but I am starting to feel it catch up to me, so I think next week will have to be a deload week, and that's mainly because I hadn't done a deload week for like 8-10 weeks before I started this new training plan. So it's not just these last 3 weeks that have beat me up, I have just not had to deal with it for a while. But after that, the plan's really just to keep increasing the training volume and intensity to help me get to the level I need to be if I was going to compete in Hyrox, which is probably quite likely. Nice. I feel ready for the day now. I'm gonna go and fuel up before the upper body session, and then we'll go for a run. I'm really excited about today. Don't know about you, but I'm excited, so let's go.
There's something about you that caught my eye. There's something so true that sparks a light. And I don't believe in love first sight, but I can't deny this thing I found. I'm not saying that you would change my life, but what I'm saying is you make me come alive. I'm not saying that you are just my type, but what I'm saying is you make me come alive. Ooh, I'd rather be in this state of mind. I'd rather be in this state of mind.
Yes. Ah, too tall.
They are so slippery. My hands were not staying on.
Whoa. We did it. 4K complete. And now it's home time to refuel. And yeah,
Chill.
This was the post-workout of choice. Sourdough with hot honey fried eggs, would 110% recommend. So it's the day after my first double session day, and recovery-wise, I'm doing okay. Like, I thought my legs would be more beat up than they are, but the thing that's actually getting me is my back for some reason, so we'll see. But I'm just getting ready to go to the gym now for leg day. The second leg day of the week, so we've got some squats on the cards, some lunges, and then at the end we've got sled pull, and I think it's ski erg, so that'll be good. Hopefully I can get my ski erg form down a little bit better today. What I did find yesterday was that my rowing form seemed to be a little bit better than last week, and having my running shoes on when I was doing rowing actually kind of helped a bit, because the shoes are bigger so they fit in the foot holds bits better. And yeah, my rowing form is definitely not where I want it to be, but we're seeing the little improvements from week to week, so that's exactly what we want to see the most progress. We've got leg day to do. I'm going to stop procrastinating now and go get it done. After warming up well, of course, sled pull was actually feeling really strong in this session, and I've managed to get the weight up to the weight that I'll need to do in Hyrox, which is 103 kg. Yeah, there's still a way to go, but I think I've got a decent technique down now where I get into a bit of a rhythm and then keep the rope to one side so I'm not tripping over it. That's the idea, at least. The rest of the week I did my usual sessions. There wasn't much to note, except just feeling a bit more confident with the new movements across the board. And also filmed some form videos for shorts and Instagram reels. I'm about to go for my second run of the week. Today it is an easy 4K, so it'll be like a bit, it's still early. It's gonna be probably about 25, less than 25 minutes. It's looking pretty breezy outside, but it's not wet, so thankful for that. And the goal for this run is really just to get out there and get moving. So no PRs or anything like that, because remember, we want to take our easy runs easy. This is one of those runs. This is a tragedy. I don't know if I've got another one. I'm gonna have to get some more hair ties. It is crazy how light it is in the mornings now. Like, I woke up around 6, my alarm was set for 6:45. I thought it was like 7 and I'd missed my alarm, but no. I am loving the lighter mornings though. It makes me want to get up out of bed in the morning. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way. But this is the hair. And this is the fit. Got the new GYMSHARK interval seamless leggings, the Vital seamless jacket, zip jacket I believe, and then the Adapt Fleck halter neck underneath. So lovely little fits. I'm gonna go warm up. Actually no, I'm gonna fuel first, then I'm gonna warm up, then I'm gonna go, because I'm on the welcome team at church this morning, which is why I'm going so early. And we need some speed. Day 28, and I finally got to practice wall balls. It is a lot further that you have to throw the ball than I thought, and there's a lot more technique to it than I initially thought as well. So I'm really glad that I do get to practice this every now and then now. Let's just say with wall balls, humbling is an understatement, and I have no idea how you're supposed to do 100 of these at the end of a Hyrox race. It is day 30, so after 30 days of hybrid training, what has changed? Well, number one, I've got stronger. I've learned new skills with all of the Hyrox exercises and everything like that. Number two, my running has improved. Got a sub 20-minute 5K. Like, I wasn't even expecting that when I started this challenge, but there we go. Number three, and one of the biggest questions we had from the start, I have not lost my gains. In fact, I think I've actually built muscle through this whole process, and also built muscular endurance, which is so important for events like Hyrox, because like walking lunges, all the it is an endurance event at the end of the day. And I've also learned a lot more about structuring my own nutrition, like around lifting, around running. Is hybrid training just giving a label to doing a bit of lifting and a bit of running? Maybe. But I do think having the label can create that sense of community, and then people kind of understand your training style or what you're training for a little bit better. I guess if you look at it that way, then Hyrox is just taking it a step further with specific movements that you've got to include, and then really emphasizing the endurance side of things. You don't have to be the best runner in the world. You can just get outside and go for a run. It doesn't matter if you're slower than one person or a lot faster than the next person, because running at different speeds and different heart rate zones is used for different training goals. So you don't know what the next person's training for before, so why are you comparing yourself? And I've also learned that there are so many aspects to strength that aren't just what people typically think of, like your squat, bench and deadlift. Getting strong in those functional movements can do so much for your overall health and longevity long term. Like, think about going on an airplane and trying to put your bag in the overhead locker. Or maybe you're gardening and you're pushing a wheelbarrow. Or even just carrying bags of shopping. Practicing those more functional movements over the last few weeks definitely reminded me of the health in health and fitness, because we don't just train to look better. Yeah, some people do, but really it shouldn't be your main goal in training. We want to be stronger, we want to be faster, we want to be fitter and healthier, and do all of that long term. That's what we call longevity. Those functional movements are training those skills and building up that strength in different ways that have a lot of carryover to day-to-day tasks that you could be doing when you're in your 80s. So I'd say that's one of the big advantages of hybrid training. You're building that strength now and investing in your future self. Obviously, it is so much fun. I've been loving the variety. And if you're an ADHD girly, you know, we kind of thrive off that type of thing. So no, running does not kill your gains, but you do need to make sure that you're structuring your entire routine, your nutrition, and your recovery right. If you want more help with this, by the way, I do offer one-to-one coaching, so you can apply for that in the description. Please ignore the hair, but I have some news. So a couple of weeks after filming this video, I actually got pretty badly injured and I'm not able to run at the moment. This has kind of been a massive setback for the whole getting into hybrid training thing, and it sucks. It really does suck. But if you want to hear exactly what happened and how I'm switching up my training to not lose all my progress, then check out this video next. I love you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you want to see in future videos and I'll see you there. Bye. Shout out to everyone who suggested plant names in my last video. The plant is now called Collie, and if you spot her in future videos, make sure you comment Collie too.